computer when I can.
Okay, call the meeting to Community Preservation Committee meeting to order. It is April 26th, 2023. I'm Gina Guasconi, Chair. Also present in the meeting are members Carlton Hunt, Harry Bailey, Jeffrey Merriman, Patrick Driscoll.
Gina, do you know my video's off because I'm not running the meeting, but do you know your video's off?
Nope, I'll put it on now. Thank you. Here we go. Okay, good. Thank you, Pat. Okay, just disclosure pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020 and the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and the March 31, 2025 extension granted by chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. This meeting for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to tune into the meeting may do so via Zoom. Okay, first item is call to order, which we just did. Chair's announcements. I have no particular announcements. Other than Carlton as the vice chair, myself continue to meet with the town manager the week before our regular CPC meetings, just to go over updates and things of interest, new things coming up, and that seems to be working out well, meeting with him. I think that's it for my announcements. Any public comment? It looks like we have. Was that an, oh, okay. Approval of the March minutes. We don't have the minutes. If you recall, Josh had to leave us early the last meeting. We're having a problem accessing the recording, so I'm going to write up from my notes and go over with him, and we'll have the minutes for the next meeting. Okay, next is review of the financial reports. Josh sent those out as a packet. Josh, do you have that you could put up on the screen?
Yes, it'll take me just a couple minutes to do that.
Okay, no problem. It looks like we're in good shape money-wise. We have a number of projects that we can potentially close out. That when Josh gets those up there. And we'll give the updates on the projects as we get to it. We should be getting our influx of money. Taxes are due next month, so our balance should increase from there. Looking under the expense budget to actual, the State Farm Trail project shows $4,400 left, 35,600 spent. Carlton, do you know what that 4,400 is? I know the 35,600 went to the state for surveying. Do you know what that? Are they not using that other 4,400?
This is the old State Farm.
Yes.
It shows 40,000 that was approved by CPC. They have sent 35,600, and I think that was to the state. And if the state doesn't need that money, I would suspect that it would come back to the CPC.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, some of the others will be closing out hopefully in May. So that should show, if it doesn't show off, then it will. Okay, trying to see it on there. Oh, it wasn't, it was, we had most approved it from administrative funds for the senior center improvements, and that's been closed out too. Okay, any questions on this report?
I would only say that over on the balance sheet, if you look at the grand total, it says $3,927,993. Basically, that's the sum of money that is held in a bank through either the reserve accounts, the undesignated fund balance, et cetera. If you look at the amount of money that we have available for potential projects, depending on where all the buckets it comes from, is about 1.383 million, $1,383,303. So basically, that number is a round number, but that's what we have available for appropriation at this point.
Correct, the 1.38,
1.383303.
right. Right. Okay, if no questions on that, we can move on. As I said, we should be seeing a lot of tax money coming in May. Will show up as the end of May. Okay, next is their FY24 recommended budget. We had talked at length last month about how to do it. We need to, what to submit as our recommendations. We need to put at least 10% in the 3 parts: community housing, open space, recreation, and historical resources. Other years, we put 10%, some years we've put more than 10% based on the anticipated projects. The conversation last month, the discussion, it seemed to be leaning towards putting 10% into each of those pots with the balance of it into reserves. Any discussion on that? Are you ready to take a vote? What it amounts to, they're anticipating the surcharge from taxes to be 825,000, a state match roughly 175,000, for a total of $1 million even. We do have debt service, the Academy building and the Keith's Homestead we're still paying, so that comes off of that $1 million first. So we have.
Dana, the only comment I would make on that is the budgetary reserves down at the bottom. That is actually the undesignated fund. We only have one undesignated fund. So we're putting 264,000 and change into the undesignated fund.
Right, thank you. Right, that's what we took from the discussion at the last meeting in March. Any discussion on it now, or a motion to accept it as it's prepared based on discussion from the last meeting?
Gina, it's Pat.
Hey, Pat.
So we're meeting, all we're doing with the other, the buckets that we have to fund, we're just doing the minimum, which is 10%, correct?
Correct,
The balance is going to go into the undesignated, correct?
correct,
But we are just doing the minimums. The 10% is the minimum in those accounts, the required minimum, correct?
correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I move to recommend this budget that's before us here for FY24 to the town manager.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it, Harry.
Okay, discussion? Okay, hearing none. Josh, can we do a roll call on the proposed budget?
Gina,
Yes,
Carlton,
Yes,
Harry,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
great, thank you. That was quick and easy. Old business applications received, Broad Street properties, and the taking of the Broad Street properties. We have an update on that from Dawn. Michael couldn't make the meeting. Broad Street properties, the two lots, Michael's going to talk more about this at the meeting with Carlton and I that will bring back the getting engineering plans and the pending grant application. We had asked him at the at our last meeting, the March meeting, we had voted unanimously to request that he have the town engineers go over the properties that we own, plus the proposed 2 parcels next to the Chinese restaurant. I don't believe that's done yet. It's in process. Michael had said the town engineer, excuse me, the town engineer will review the work provided by Pat Brennan, who's an engineering consultant. The town engineer has added this to his existing workload. So hopefully it's done by the next meeting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we'd like to see that information before we take any vote.
I'll chime in there. Yes, we spoke with Michael about that. He said that based on our letter, the vote in the letter that Gina sent, that he had sent the information to the gentleman that's doing the engineering. Gina and I basically said, no, we want the town engineers to look at that. So it's in the process, it's on the town engineers to-do list at this point. And I think it may be a little bit of time because we're told that the town engineers are quite busy with engineering a number of streets.
Great, thank you. Any more discussion on the Broad Street properties?
But we're not
One
going
of
to take a
the-
vote. We're not going to take a vote tonight, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
One of the things that I believe Carlton may have pointed out at the last meeting, I want to say it was five acres we purchased before 2019, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's around that time.
Right, that it was purchased and reimbursed partly by a grant, but part of the grant application was written up that the purchase would be to include parking. We're just,
Accessible parking.
right, accessible parking. Carlton has documented that, and we've sent it off to the town manager and the town attorney to review, because we just don't want to put that in jeopardy and end up paying back. So we're looking into that too. Okay, Central Square Congregational Church phases 2 and 3 are still on hold pending the first part 1.
Have you been able
Okay.
to reach out to Pal and set up an appointment?
That's what I was starting to ask you before the meeting started. I'll send you available dates and you can tell me what's good for you.
So basically, we're still in the process of getting Pal and the town attorney who can write the deed restriction if needed. We're still in the process of getting that scheduled, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Funded project updates, library archival digitization project. That, as far as we know, is complete. There's still a balance of, I want to say close to $1,000 I've written to Jed Phillips, who's the director of the library, just to ensure that all invoices have been paid, all orders have been received. He's looking into that, and then we can close that out. He's also going to prepare a final report for us. Styles and Parklands improvements. I think that was part of what I just said. That are no two different things. Harry, can you update us on the improvements?
I don't have anything on,
Okay,
nobody's
so
told me
basically,
anything.
they're still, great.
But I can give you an update based on what was sent to us late this afternoon. Essentially, the town manager is implementing an advisory committee. Maybe it's I'm speaking of the wrong one. When we
Yep,
talked to
that's a
him,
different thing.
okay, but when we did talk with him, we asked that additional folks, there is an ad hoc committee of which Harry's a member. But we asked him that we should get a little bit more public involvement before we actually finalize the plan. Hopefully next month we'll have more.
Okay, great. Thank you, Harry. Central Square Congregational Church Historic Restoration. Carlton just alluded to that we're working on the deed restriction still. Pickleball courts is, as far as we know, and I'm just verifying with Jim Small, the superintendent of Parks and Rec, that everything has been received and paid. We've straightened out the accounts. If you remember, some things were paid from that shouldn't have been. So that account's been reimbursed from the Park and Rec department. And we're waiting for a final report. If anybody has anything to add for these, feel free just to jump right in. The memorial building, according to Michael's update this afternoon, they're finalizing the cost of the project this week, and they need to put in a revised application to the CPC for an additional $169,000 that we should have by the next meeting. And that's for more handicap work.
The stairway at the reverse side of the memorial building, right next to the accessibility parking. When they got into the project, they found out that step had to be totally rebuilt. And that caused, it was a major change order to get that redone. And they're requesting us to fund that, I think. That's not soon.
Okay, good. Thank you. The McKellen School is just about complete. The playground looks good. I'm not sure if they have more things to get put in there or if it's done. I think it's pretty well set. There's a public open house tour on Saturday, May 13th from 2 to 4 that everybody is invited to. It's open to the public. Just a couple of things about that is, it's not really an update for the CPC funding, but the playground is open to the public. And plus the community room in the new building will be available coming up, I think they said in June, for nonpartisan community groups. So just a little tidbit thrown in for that.
And we didn't talk about it before, but we had recommended and the council voted $135,000 for the recreation, basically. And they have not accessed that money. And we don't know exactly if they will or if they won't, but Michael told us earlier this month that will provide us with something like a 10-page final closeout document.
Great, thank you. Taking of the Summer Street property, they've created a 4-person steering committee. It's been put together consisting of an introduction with Melissa Desjardins, who's designing the the landscaping. They put together the steering committee for public assistance in the process. It includes Bob Ruley, who's the community and economic director, Merritt Lee Hunt, Bridgewater Improvement Association president, Jim Small, the Parks and Recreation superintendent, and Dennis Lunenberg from BSU. I believe he's in the president's office. Or he was when I was there. So they'll be putting something together. I'm glad to see they put together a committee for that. Let's see, Hemlock Drive windows and door replacement. That's going well. I think they're getting ready to start on that. We can have more of an update next month with Stacy.
Remind me if we've submitted the grant agreement to the town manager to get that in place before the project starts.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Have we or have we not?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just have one quick question for you on that, but it's ready to go to Michael that I'll talk to you after the meeting on it just for the quick question. Or
Okay.
actually I can ask it now. Does Michael need to sign it too, or just the housing authority?
It's a town grant agreement, so I'm assuming he would.
Okay,
Otherwise, we have, and we don't know who's going to be the liaison, but yeah, we
Okay.
can talk about that offline, but I do believe the town manager signs it.
okay, that was my question for that. Okay,
Excuse me.
yes.
Hi, Kristen Anderson with the Bridgewater Housing Authority.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, sorry, I should put on my video. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
So I'm just here to listen. We understood that this was approved and we haven't really heard anything else. So I'm just trying to figure, how do we get the funding?
Okay,
That's all spelled out in the grant agreement.
right. I actually had an email from Lily Fiore
Yep,
today.
yes.
That was asking how to proceed, so I'm going to answer her on it, but it's all spelled out in the grant agreement that should be going to her like any day. I can
Okay.
send her the draft of it even before it's signed, just so she
Perfect.
knows what's in it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, great, thank you, and thank you, Kristen, for identifying yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, next, see Old State Farm Trails. According to the town manager this afternoon, that there is a hang up at the state level for legal issues. And he said more to follow.
They are also doing, there was a number of conversations on one of the Facebook pages. Basically, they are in the process of doing the survey. And apparently, they, an abutter approached them, asked them what was going on. They told him, but apparently there's some additional things that have happened. So it's a work in progress.
Great, thank you. There are Parthenon Freeze. I believe they're being sent out for the.
I can update that.
Yeah,
The
I was gonna
Parthenon-
ask for that.
The Parthenon Freeze, the town clerk has connected with the company that will come in, package up the freezes and take them to the restoration location. She has a quote from them, but I'm not sure if they actually have signed a contract yet, but basically it's a work in process. Unfortunately, someone has moved the freezes around inside the townhouse. We hope they didn't do further damage because a couple of them are in pretty bad shape. But I'm hoping that they didn't cause a problem. We had thought we'd put them away, out of the way, but somewhere, somebody got in there and moved it. And they've blocked up the access. The hallway is totally filled up with stuff. So we're gonna have to try, the town clerk has to get somebody in there to actually clear the way so these people can do their job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Did we lose up this, Pat? I'm scrolling down my list and just to make sure we still had quorum, but, okay, good, thank you. Eligibility forms approved. We're awaiting applications, Hanson's Farm. It's my understanding that the additional surveying required has been done, blocking out the buildings that the Hansons want to keep. The surveyor just has to put it on his map and send it. Obviously, a new timeline is going to be needed for that. And I think we're still okay with it because you can only apply for a land grant like at certain times of the year. And I don't think that comes up until later in the summer. So hopefully everything's set and the town can apply for that grant. Methodist Church, I spoke to the person putting it together. The one who had submitted the eligibility form. It seems it's narrowed down to just her to put it together. So she's whittling away at it. So hopefully that comes through soon. Administrative account updates. We've taken Carlton keeps running a list of projects and things that we've approved.
I can
There's
give you,
actually-
I can give you a quick update on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Basically, as of March 31st, 2023, we had a balance of $28,231. We had some known expenses that will come out of that. Basically, it's the final costs for the senior center project. That leaves us a balance of about $25,000. And I will speak a little bit later about one potential use of the funds. And we will also speak a little bit later about when to hold the annual CPC hearing. So basically, we took everything else out of it. So we're in pretty good shape with respect to that account.
Good, thank you. Senior Center Design Study, the Senior Center has finished their public hearings. The last one, I believe, was the start of April 3rd, possibly. The landscaping architect, Melissa Desjardins, had presented phase 1 that was based on the public input at the other 2 hearings. Emily Williams, the director of the Senior Center, is putting together an application or our eligibility form and application for the project. I'm not sure how much of it is actually eligible for CPC, so we'll have to see once it comes in. We're not sure an amount for that yet either, so they were working on putting that together. And that we had allocated, the amount of money we allocated for the study was spent to the exact penny. So that, and it wasn't an encumbrance because we had voted to take it out of the admin account. But everything the whole amount that we approved with a vote has been spent. Anticipated projects. I spoke with Fire Chief Mike McDermott, and they're looking to restore this an old antique pump wagon that some of you might recall that they used to put it in the parades in town. They're looking to have that restored and put at the new fire station. And he's in the process of getting a quote on what it will take to restore it. And I guess they did some work a number of years ago, so he doesn't think it should take all that much work to restore it.
When does he plan to do the eligibility? Because he can have a ballpark number, but
He
I'm assuming-
was, I only talked to him, not this past weekend, the weekend before, and he was waiting for a quote, an estimate from the restoration folks. And
So
he said
just
he'd get it to us as soon as he had that. So
So
I'd
to
say
put
by
a
the
name-
May meeting.
So to put a name on it, it's the Osamoquin. I think it's called the Osamoquin, something like that.
Right, but what's interesting is I spoke with the president of our Samaquin Club. And she said that our Samaquin Club really hadn't, like, there's no relationship between that and the Samaquin pump wagon.
Correct.
So we don't know how it became, if it's just coincidence, they're both named the same thing. But I thought maybe they had funded it to begin with, but she said, no, there's no connection between the two.
It's actually in one of the 1800s town records.
Okay. The pickleball folks have mentioned to Parks and Recreation about the need for 2 additional pickleball courts. So that may be coming down the road at some point. We already spoke about the memorial building, the additional funds, and we should be getting that too. According to the town manager for the May meeting. Completion of documents, and I swear, I promise that you're not going to see this on the agenda much more. Policies and procedures, Carlton has updated a number of things in it. I'm in the process of going through it. The town manager also has it to go through. So our goal is to have it to the CPC membership and plenty of time to review before the May meeting. So that's coming, and that will get crossed off. Hopefully. The award letter and grant agreement templates, we have agreed upon templates that we are using. So for the award letters, and we're just about caught up with all award letters and the one grant agreement we have. And most of them are in the town manager's hands just to be signed. And that will go away off the agenda too. Okay, any comments on any of that? Okay, hearing none, new business, the permanent recognition signs for all CPC funded projects was a suggestion that Carlton made, so we'll let him talk about that.
Thank you. I got to thinking about the fact that CPC, we often require, not often, we do require a CPC sign to recognize the funding during a construction project. For example, the townhouse, there is a CPC sign out there as well, the historic sign that's required by the state because of the grant money. So I started thinking about, well, what do we really have that needs recognizing? I went through the states, the coalition has a database of all of our projects. So I went through and I've gone in, put it into a spreadsheet, all the projects that included some kind of construction or restoration, that kind of thing. So things like the girls softball fields way back in 2007 and 9, the fence for the Mount Prospect Cemetery, various buildings, restoration things, Academy Building, townhouse. There's conservation land, for example, the Murray Needs conservation restriction has a sign that's required. It's been in a little bit of, the wind got to it a while back, and I think it's been reinstalled. So, but I went through all of these kinds of things to figure out if we had really anything to leave behind, so people that are around after we are no longer part of CPA, CPC, et cetera, actually has some historic recognition that CPA money was in fact used to restore, construct, or otherwise put together. And I think it's a list of 25 or 27 projects that I will bring to the committee next meeting. Hopefully we can get a little bit of discussion on it. I'm thinking, I've gone to the trophy organization here in town, and I've seen some large plaques and small plaques. There could be some large signs, like I mentioned, out at the Murray Needs or the conservation land out at the NIP. So I'm not sure how to price those things, but I can get some level of pricing for a 1-foot by 8-inch plaque, a smaller one, and some that may be even bigger. I can get some broad estimates. Right now, on average, I'm thinking that we probably would be looking at, and I would propose that when we get to this, that we take it out of the administrative funds to have these leave behind recognition plaques. And right now, I think the budget would be about $7,000, maybe less, maybe more. But that's basically what our thinking is. We floated that with the town manager earlier in April, and he was quite supportive of us getting some kind of CPA recognition for all these buildings and other projects. So that's just where we're at right now, and you'll get more information before the next meeting.
Okay, any discussion on that? Any thoughts? Okay, my only question is, I think it's a great idea. Do you think if we put brass signs out, that the brass signs are going to disappear for the price of brass?
I haven't thought about that yet. I'm definitely not going to put gold out,
Right,
but the fence, I've talked to a couple people, they think that's fine. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll dig into that more.
okay, yep, I think it's a great idea. That's my only thought.
There may be other materials that we can put together. I don't know if they're brass, but there may be other materials that we can use.
Right, I'm just thinking about, the fields and things with a lot of kids around it, brass might disappear, get damaged, as opposed to some other materials. But yeah, if you can look into others, that's great.
Gina, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So I guess what's the point of it? Why would we want to spend money on signs? I understand like during a project, but why do we want a permanent sign on a project? Why does that matter? If the goal is to refurbish and to historically preserve or to acquire open space, if we achieve that goal, why do we need to put a sign on it permanently?
Good question. I think it's because we don't have a way for the CPA funds to be recognized in the long term in a permanent sense. I think this is, I hear your question. I hear your thinking, but I think this is the kind of thing that we need to really consider as a committee to see and ensure that future generations, in fact, understand that it wasn't just a freebie that came. It was a hard-earned tax money and from the town, and that we used our money wisely. That's my basic reason.
So I just don't know if putting signs on all these past projects is using money wisely. That's all. Why wouldn't we use that money for a feasibility study or an appraisal or something to try to achieve another goal instead of going back to projects that we've already done and putting signs on them?
Well, the two things you mentioned, clearly CPC admin funding can fund. I'm looking at this as we have money this year that we could spend on it, but I'm going to leave it to the full committee to make a decision. Thank you.
Okay, good thoughts on both parts. Pat, in the past, we actually have it in our award letters that in the template, so the template may have to be changed already, but we have it in there that a sign has to be erected or some type of recognition given that it was funded or partially funded with community preservation money. And it was at the expense of the person or group receiving it, the award. I know at the pickleball courts, the sign was put up and it says funded by community preservation. I believe in other places it has, so it's just, we need to decide as part of the discussion if we in turn want to pay for them, this year we happen to have money, but in the future, do we tell people that, tell the groups they have to put up their own sign, as we've done it in the past? Murray Needs, I believe, may have been paid by the Murray Needs people, not, or the town who got the grant on that. I'm not sure exactly who paid for that. I like when I go into different towns to, and maybe I'm the odd one and just relate to community preservation, but I like going into towns like the Herring Run in Middleborough, the Oliver something, the Herring Run right on Route 44. Part of their sign, it says right on it, it was funded by community preservation. I see that. I hike a lot of trails around, and many of them on the sign says funded by community preservation and whoever else funded it. I think it's good to see things that the community preservation did. And as I said, maybe I'm just attuned to that from having CPC on the brain for so long. But I think it's nice to see the recognition given. I'm not sure in these other towns who pays for the signs. And that could be something that we could look into as well to see who pays. But good. Carlton can put together something for that. Does that answer your question, Pat?
Not really, but that's okay. I just think it's a waste.
Okay, and you can bring that up. Okay, I'm just counting for quorum because my screen changed, but we're still set. Okay, yeah, get all your questions ready. When we have the points, so we can discuss them now too. We might,
We should move on. You know, this was just an opening. Let's move on.
okay. Okay, CPC annual hearing. We have to have one a year. We had one, I want to say October, November. I think it was October. And it was on Zoom. And we had talked about doing another one in person, and that would take this year's, take care of this year's, and doing it. We'd be hoping for more public participation than we had on the Zoom meeting. The year before we did the Zoom, and we had slews of people on it. I don't know what happened last fall, that we probably had just a few. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at having a facilitator come in to do the presentation, or Carlton or I could do it. So that's something that we're looking at too.
And I'll add to that, remind people that our 5-year plan is up in 2024. So we use admin money to bring somebody in to really work on our next 5-year plan. So we have to think ahead a little bit about that also.
Right. I can't believe 5 years is up already that we're doing a new one. Okay, MBTA zoning status. The council did a
Workshop.
workshop on the MBTA zoning status. I just caught parts of it. I wasn't even aware it was happening till I saw it. I was at a place that I really couldn't hear it well. But I need to look at the recording of that, and I encourage the rest of you to look at it too. It has to do with housing along the MBTA zones.
It's on our Facebook. It's on our Facebook Live webpage.
Right, and it should be on the town's recording too for folks that don't use Facebook. Okay,
Pat,
committee,
Pat, do you know, have any updates on that?
Pat,
Do I have any updates on well,
Zoning.
there's two different things. There's MBTA zoning and then there's what we're trying to do downtown. I don't know if everything we're trying to do downtown complies with MBTA zoning, so the downtown, what Mr. Rulli is trying to do is form-based code to redevelop the downtown. It's gonna somehow integrate with MBTA communities, but I'm not sure how, and that's to be seen. The town has till the end of 2024 to adopt zoning, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of things coming up over the next few months, years, you know.
good, thank you. Committee liaison reports, I'll start for Parks and Rec. We really don't have a report other than the pickleball courts are done. We're just waiting for the final report and plus the anticipated additional requests for pickleball courts. Harry, anything for Concom?
No, we're just doing some normal projects, but I just got word that our former chair is coming back into conservation. She got approved, so Marilyn McDonald will be back on conservation again.
Oh, good. Now, what about, I think it was the last meeting you mentioned to us, the problem with demolition that had to do with wetlands or something on Center Street.
No, I don't know about that one.
Okay, maybe I'm dreaming on it. It's possible. Okay, Jeff, anything from
What
historic?
was your question about Center Street?
That I thought it was mentioned at, maybe it was you that mentioned it, that there's a demolition.
Gina?
Yes,
So I'll jump in. There is a house that is scheduled for demolition that had to go before the historical commission. Jeff
Okay,
can
that's
expand
what it
upon
was.
that. And then at the curve, at Center Street curve, right there by the church, going west and then south, there is a 40B project that's underway there, and I believe you may be thinking about the fact that it's very close to wetlands, and probably the Concom had some discussions about it.
Okay, I think it was, you're right.
It's
I stand
still
corrected.
under discussion tomorrow night.
Right, okay. I think you're right. I think it was Bill Smith that talked about the demolition of the house. Okay, Jeff, were we set for historic?
Yep, I wasn't able to make the last meeting, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. Okay, Pat, anything updates for the planning board?
No, we're getting kind of busy. We did just receive a submittal for the Perkins Foundry and another hotel at the Claremont property. Really haven't looked at it too much. They just came in this week, so I'm sure they'll be scheduled. I think the target date to start those hearings is May 17th. That's about it.
Okay, good.
So I'll give
Um,
a citizens update. I'll give a citizens update.
Mhm.
I have finished a 40+ page report on the history of the 1843 townhouse. I've gone into all of the town records, basically, handwritten old books, volumes from 1830 to 1846 or thereabouts. And then in 1847, the annual town report was done. The town clerk had those reports from 1847 all the way through 2008, when the last one went before we changed to the town city government. And so because of the cultural redevelopment of that house, a potential use as a cultural center, I decided I'd look and see what it was used for back in the 1800s and early 1900s. And so I have completed that report, and I'll be publishing that probably by Friday.
Good, thank you. Okay, I think we've had all the committee reports. Upcoming events. We have nothing other than to think about the annual hearing and starting the 5-year plan. Next meeting date is May 24th at 6:30. I believe we're still going to be Zoom, but we'll see. And that's it. We have no public left for public comment. So I guess we're just looking for, if nobody has any new business, we're just looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second,
I'll
Nope.
second it.
I was gonna say, nobody wants to second it. You just want to stay here all night? Okay, discussion? Roll call, Josh?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Great, thank you,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a
Night.
good night.